People are unhappy with the outcomes of recent murder cases in Macon, Bibb County.
Our 13 Investigates team looked at the conviction rate for District Attorney Anita Howard's office, and we found that over 60% of this year's murder trials ended in acquittal. Reporters Fariha Abrar and Lars Lonroth looked into how those verdicts affect families waiting for justice.
Anita Howard's team took 13 murder cases to trial this year in Bibb County. Only 5 of the accused were convicted of murder. That's 61% with a not guilty verdict. When we spoke to the families of several murder victims, they said the verdicts are shaking their faith in the system. But when the verdict was read, how did you guys end up feeling?
Well, I passed out. We heard her fall from standing up to the ground. And, my heart was breaking for them.
Almost 8 years after Vernon Schultz was shot and killed in his home, his wife finally got her day in court. Tanita Schultz was charged with malice murder and felony murder. November's trial took 5 days. That includes the 30 minutes it took for the jury to reach their verdict, not guilty.
All of our world stopped for a brief second because we couldn't believe it.
Traumatizing Vernon's loved ones all over again.
But then at the same time, in hindsight, knowing what we know about how the case was handled, it's almost not shocking, but it's shocking to know that this is now our reality.
It is a tragic loss of their loved one for Ms. Schultz and her family, her tragedy on both sides.
Tanita's defense attorney, Deborah Gomez, had nearly 8 years to build a self-defense case.
Ms. Schultz, my client, lived over a cloud over her life for almost 8 years of wondering, am I going to prison for the rest of my life?
But in the Macon District Attorney's office,
we had probably six different ADAs in those 8 years.
Other lawyers we spoke with said high turnover likely contributed to the Macon District Attorney's 38.5% conviction rate in Bibb County over the past year. And according to former Fulton County prosecutor Daryl Cohen,
it's about as normal as a 95-degree day in the middle of January in Atlanta.
For 3 years, District Attorney David Cook's team handled the Schultz case until Anita Howard was elected in 2020. Now, under both DAs, Vernon Schultz's family said they had to push prosecutors to move the case forward. But to have their 8-year wait end in acquittal was devastating. Yet, they're not alone. Kendra Hubbard, accused of killing Hakeem Flowers in 2023, was found not guilty of murder. He's serving 20 years for involuntary manslaughter. Andre Davis was charged with killing Timothy Williams during an armed robbery. He was sentenced 10 years for aggravated assault. And in October, Jordan Dean was acquitted of killing Nathaniel Fuller back in April. Dean was convicted of tampering with evidence and got a 1-year sentence. Cohen calls that string of acquittals a red flag.
But again, you have to look at all of the other cases that ended up not going to trial. It's numbers. Look, a 40% conviction rate out of 10 murder cases tried is not good at all.
It was very clear seeing the differences between the defense attorney, who had 8 years to build her case and her story, and then the DAs or the ADAs that went on our behalf.
And Cohen says prosecution problems may start with leadership.
So it starts from the top. The district attorney, regardless of who he or she is.
We made several attempts to talk to Anita Reynolds Howard on camera, but her office declined, instead offering us a statement. In it, they said while many are acquitted of murder, convictions on lesser charges like voluntary manslaughter and robbery are signs of success. When elected DA in 2020, Howard was prosecuting traffic court cases.
But sometimes a lack of background is hurtful.
Then in 2021, we reported at least 18 prosecutors left since Howard took leadership. Cohen says the DA's office needs to critically analyze what is going wrong.
If she doesn't have the same background that may be important to prosecute felonies, then hiring someone who's either just out of law school, not a good gig initially, unless the office is large, or hiring a lawyer who's been there, done that, for a long period of time is someone who could act as a mentor to all of the other assistant DAs in the office.
As for Schultz's loved ones, they say they don't want to see other families go through the same ordeal.
Because it's horrible to have to go through it while it's happening. It's like a wound, you naturally start to heal, but then somebody comes 8 years later and picks the scab off and it's like, here, start over.
As you heard, Howard's office didn't want to talk to us on camera, but here's more of their statement. It says, in part, as prosecutors, we pursue cases for which we believe the evidence legally supports the charges. And while we strive for outcomes we believe are just, juries sometimes interpret justice differently. For 13 Investigates, I'm Fari Habrar.
For the full statement and a breakdown of the problems we discovered, find this story on 13WMAZ.com.